All right, welcome to Ivory GC. Today we're joined by Sal Roccaro, Chief Strategy Officer and General Counsel at Maximum Quality Foods. Sal's path is as dynamic as it is diverse, from litigating environmental and land use cases to leading M&A, labor negotiations, and AI integration at a major food distribution company. With degrees in law, business, and engineering, Sal bridges legal insight with operational execution, helping drive transformation from the inside out. In this episode, we'll explore how Sal blends legal strategy and business innovation, what he's learned from balancing compliance and leadership, and how his multidisciplinary mindset has shaped his role as a GC and strategic executive. Sal, welcome to Ivory GC. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
So, yeah, let's start with what you're up to. Tell us about Maximum Quality Foods, your role there, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Maximum Quality Foods, we're a food distribution company, a broadline food distribution company. So picture a one-stop shop for restaurants. Most people don't realize, how important of a cog distribution is in the supply chain. We basically get, we're bringing in products from different manufacturers. We house them in our warehouse, and then we're going to the, restaurants so they can go to an end user. So we're that middleman in between the manufacturer and the restaurant.
Got it. And how long have you been with Maximum Quality Foods?
So Maximum Quality Foods, we're coming up on our 50th year. I have been officially with the company. I'm becoming on my 8th year with them, but I also happen to be, I'm third generation it's a family-owned company. I'm third generation, so I've grown up in it as well.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your role.
So my role has evolved over time. I came on as general counsel, and I slowly evolved, took off my legal hat a little bit, took more and more of a business hat. And so now I am currently the chief strategy officer and general counsel. So wearing multiple hats, but all related.
Yeah. And as chief strategy officer, what business aspects of the company are you overseeing?
So I'm looking at the whole company, every facet of the company, from our operations, our purchasing, sales, compliance, HR, finance, you name it, I'm looking at it. But I'm not looking at it, we have other executives, managers, and more in the day-to-day. I'm trying to take the bigger picture approach to everything, looking at, how we can make Maximum better every day.
And what does the legal function look like?
So the legal function, as general counsel, I'm, again, touching nearly everything. I'm a legal department of one. So, my main thing is spotting the issues. And then, I work with, if it's something I can handle, I handle it myself. Otherwise, I'm working with outside counsel, and I'm that in between the, the company and outside for a lot of stuff. So anything from employment issues, if there's an M&A going on, litigation that we may have going on. What else am I forgetting? You name it for a company. Compliance issues, making sure we're up to date with that stuff. We're a union environment, so union issues if there are any.
Yeah, understood. And so tell us a little about your background. Where did you get your training, and where were you before you joined Maximum Quality Foods?
Sure. So I'm a Syracuse grad. I had an interesting background. I originally went to school for engineering. Thought that was going to be my path. Decided didn't want to do that. Went to law school. From law school, I went. I was fortunate enough. I got in with a smaller firm, which I think is sometimes better when you're coming right out of school. It was 7 attorneys, but it got me experience in litigation. Day one, I was in the court. Sometimes it's nice to be in the bigger firms, but sometimes you don't get that exposure right away.
Sure.
So I got approximately about 5 years there.
Yeah.
And then I did make the jump to a bigger law firm. I went to Wilentz, Goldman and Spitzer, another great firm, but that's a bigger firm, and that's where I started to specialize a little bit more. I was on their land use team, and that's what I was doing, primarily litigation. I did do other stuff, but it was mostly litigation. Then for a couple of years, I was on the land use side, which is litigation adjacent. There was some litigation work, but then also just planning board, zoning board, applications and some litigation that go with that.
Got it. And so What drew you to those areas, and how did that early experience shape your approach to legal problem solving?
So honestly, the litigation came, the first firm came on because I came out in 2011, which was a terrible year for lawyers,
Yeah,
and I was happy to have a job and get experience. But
yeah,
I ended up thinking I was never going to want to do litigation. I ended up loving it.
yeah,
And that's what did mostly commercial litigation. It was great. Got experience. Also, I got to the firm represented a few towns in New Jersey, so I got pretty diverse experience of different matters that they handled
yeah,
litigation wise. Um, but having my engineering background, I was in civil and environmental engineering. One of the first cases I was involved with, the reason the first firm hired me was my background because there was a large environmental litigation that they were involved in. It was a big class action in New Jersey uh,
okay,
with the Passaic River litigation that was going on at the time. So having the engineering background was a little bit helpful there.
yeah,
And then, I touched other things. I got to Wilentz. The reason, part of what attracted me to them for the land use team was again having that engineering background. There was always that when you're talking to engineers or architects, they have a language just like lawyers have a language,
yeah.
and not every lawyer could speak their language as easily, and so it was a nice streamlined process.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So did you know that was a plan always to go back to maximum quality foods, or what motivated your move from
No,
private practice to
the
in-house
plan
role?
was never to go to Maximum
Yeah,
Foods.
yeah, yeah,
Originally, I wanted nothing to do with it. I was gonna make my own name.
yeah, yeah,
The opportunity came along to come in house to learn the business a little bit. Again, further my career as a general counsel. And it's look, any lawyer will tell you, there's two paths. It's either you become a partner or you look to go in house. I
yeah,
was more than happy to give up having to worry about billable hours.
yeah. I understood. So you wear two major hats: chief strategic officer and general counsel. How do you balance legal and strategic responsibilities in one role?
That's probably one of the hardest things to do. Of when I'm doing legal, it's going to be privileged.
Yeah,
Where does my role become business? Where when I'm doing is not privileged.
right, right.
But any lawyer, should always have a somewhat of a business sense involved. Legal fees, legal expenses are expensive. So even when I'm looking at things, I try to look at it from both perspectives.
Yeah,
If I'm advising on litigation, if I'm advising on something that we might do, I always have the legal, what's the liability potential, what's the risk, but also what's the upside, what's the look, for example, like litigation, I can feel confident that we will be successful in litigation, and I might want to take it further along, but there's a cost to that. So is it really worth fighting, or do
yeah.
you just say, what, let's make this go away?
Yeah, right, right. So looking back, has there been a defining pivot point in your career that shaped your leadership style?
So I was fortunate to have a few really good lawyers I worked under that were very practical about the way they went about
Yeah,
things. Um, you know, some lawyers get the bad rap of just being out there to bill and all that. I was fortunate to have lawyers who were looking at, let's solve the problem for our clients. Let's do it the right way. Let's think about how it's going to affect their business.
yeah,
And you know what? The billable hours, all of that will come because our work will speak for itself.
sure.
So I learned pretty quickly from some very good lawyers about, you know, balancing that, legal and business perspective.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can remember even, doing stuff as simple when, tax appeals for the town that we represented. And you're looking at what the settlement and what that's going to be for a refund potentially for someone, and you're weighing it and saying, yeah, we can take it, we might save a little bit more, but you've got the risk of it, and even if you win, it's going to cost you another how many hours of litigation. Is it really worth it?
yeah, right, right. Yeah, you have to have that the practical approach, the balance between is what you're pursuing worth in the long run to the overall objective. So at MQF, have you overseen initiatives from you've overseen initiatives from AI platform implementation to risk reduction strategies. how do you approach legal innovation in an operational environment?
So, I was actually at a conference recently, and someone made a good point that it stuck with me. He said there are two types of companies in this world today: companies that are embracing technology and AI, and companies that are going out of business.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just the way it is. And I try to find technology. I look at it not that it's replacing people, it's augmenting and making us more efficient.
yeah,
Take the legal perspective. You're always going to need that subject matter expert and that legal expertise. But if I can use technology, implement something that's going to just make it a little bit easier, or get me maybe not all the way to the end, but give me a good starting point, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So like I have I use different AI. I have an AI platform through LexisNexis that helps me. As general counsel, I can't be an expert on everything,
Yeah.
but I can utilize their tools to go in and at least give me that first year associate baseline, so that
Right.
when I go and speak to outside counsel, I'm not starting from zero. I'm more concerned about what my actual issue is, and not, I don't need that that preamble.
Yeah. And so have there been strategies that you've used to make the most out of the AI tool in terms of perhaps when you use it, or how you use it in your day to day?
Yeah, so really what I'm doing is, as general counsel, the main thing is, first thing is issue spotting. If I can't recognize the issue, it's never going to get, found. So I'm always thinking, like, could this potentially be an issue? Could that? But I don't want to call outside counsel every time I think there's something, because I'll just run up the legal fees.
Yeah, sure.
So, it's how do I get that, initial validation of, hey, what you're looking at is no big deal, or you know what, you might want to dive into this a little bit further.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great approach. So you've led the acquisition and integration of a $3 million company. What were the
Yep.
legal and strategic challenges you faced during that process?
So that was a fun. It was another. We actually diversified ourselves a little bit. We went upstream a little bit into the supply chain. We purchased a manufacturing company.
Okay.
So that had implications of, we purchased the property, so I had some real estate applications. Obviously, we had the M&A work for the acquisition of the company. Also, we're in distribution, so everything up until that point that we were doing was, however the box came in, that's how the box went out. We don't alter anything. Now you're getting into the manufacturing, so now I have to worry about what are our compliance issues in manufacturing. What
Yeah.
do I have to worry about? I had to quickly learn, and I sought out counsel and advice, but we have to do nutritional labels now. We have to, worry about, UPC labels. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we never had to worry about that before. So how do I
Yeah.
get up to speed on that?
Yeah, right. So that was it the first acquisition and integration that you did at MQF?
No, that was not the first, but it was the first into the manufacturing realm.
Got it. Okay, great. So can you walk us through how you negotiated your collective bargaining agreement to achieve both cost savings and employee satisfaction?
Yeah, so we've had union. We've been in a union environment for quite a number of years. So this was, I think, our third renewal, of our contract. And
Yeah.
I've always taken the approach with the union. We're not looking to make life difficult. We want what's fair. We want, I've always said to them, if the guys are coming in, working, doing what they're supposed to do, we're never going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And but what we really did was, we tailored the agreement to try to um, give the most benefit to our tenured guys, to the guys who have really been, helping us grow to where we are.
Right.
So instead of just a flat, say, raise for everyone every year, we put tiers in. So the
Uh,
more senior guys got more, the guys who were newer didn't get quite as much. So it was something to grow for, to earn.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of feedback have you received from your employee base on the collective bargaining agreement, or otherwise union related matters?
So I'm sure the senior guys appreciate it because they got more than what they were getting in the past.
Yeah.
Um, Not sure as much about the newer guys, but
Sure.
at the same time, it's something to thrive, to strive for. Being in the
Yeah.
union
Yeah.
environment, like, you don't. I know things changed, more. That notion of everyone staying in one job for their whole career is not the same as
Mm-hmm.
it used to be. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to do is, hey, this is a good job. You last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Here's what you have to benefit from,
Right.
and you're
Absolutely.
building equity.
Yeah. Yeah. So what legal risks are most pressing in your industry, and how are you preparing your teams to manage them proactively?
So right now, we have a couple of things. I was actually just in DC last week. We're members of a group, the IFTA, it's called. It's like it's the International Food Distributors Association.
Okay.
And there's a few pressing issues that are going through Capitol Hill right now. So one of the biggest ones, it's called the Food Safety Modernization Act. It's been out there, supposed to go into effect in January of 2026. Thankfully, we just got some reprieve. It still goes into effect, but the enforcement of it's going to be delayed for 30 months
Okay.
because, quite frankly, the regulations are not completely up. It's almost a moving target right now. The
Yeah.
rules are out there, but I think there's like 180 something, like, but for, there's,
Yeah. Sure.
so what we really were asking for is, hey, we wanted, it, and this is to have to understand like how distribution works. Like a lot of how we track things. This is really meant for recalls if there's an issue with a product. We track a lot of that stuff on a pallet or a lot level, and the Food Safety Modernization Act is looking to get it more at a case level,
Okay.
which is just difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the concerns is not every product uses the same UPC codes or the same barcodes. So getting the information, is going to require some technology advancements.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so really what we were looking for is that 30 months is really going to help us um, test and really work through pilot, so to speak, what works,
Yeah.
what doesn't work, what's overkill, what can we
Yeah.
go back and talk about. And right now, I basically told, our company, I want to pretend as if it's going in effect still January 26th. Don't use that 30 months to just sit back.
Sure.
We've already identified a technology solution where, upgrading our system so that we think that we can track, stay in compliance with the new rules. But,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be glitches anytime. There's always
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to pretend that, if we did something wrong on January 26th, we're, just as much exposure as it would have been 30 months from now. I don't want
Yeah.
to use that time that we've now earned as like, oh, we don't worry about it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Might as well get ahead of it. So with the responsibility over legal, HR, compliance, and strategy, how do you ensure cohesion across those functions?
So, legal touches everything. I
Yeah.
know people don't want to hear it, but legal touches everything. I took over HR a little bit, and I've since taken a step back. I have a good HR manager. Um, but I took that over during COVID as sort of like just sort of had to at the time. We're looking
Yeah.
to, add, and you come to realize a lot of. I'm not saying HR and legal is the same thing because it's not at all. There's things that my HR manager is much better at me at than I am, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's employment law.
Yeah. Sure.
A lot of
Sure.
what it is employment law. So that was a pretty easy transition for me.
Yeah.
I like having the HR department be more of that front person. I didn't like to do all the the meetings and
Sure.
stuff,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
just the strategy, the legal concepts behind why HR does what they do,
Yeah.
that came comfortable. Same
Yeah.
thing with compliance. And then with strategy, everything you look at when you're looking at a company, you have to look at, what's the upside and what's the downside. Usually the downside is coming from some legal implication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I work a lot with our salespeople, a lot with other people, and they'll be all excited like, hey, this could bring us in, this potential deal could net us, I don't know, $10,000 a month. And I go,
Yeah.
yeah, but if one thing goes wrong, we're looking at $1 million of liability. Like, is that 10,000 really worth it?
Right. So, what have you found to be most effective when working with cross-functional teams who may not have a legal background?
It's really understanding what they're coming from, because obviously they have initiatives as well. They're trying, a salesperson is graded on, growing his sales, earning commissions. That's all they care about. But you have to, it's a little bit of an educational process of, yeah, I want to do it, but let's be smart about how we do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So in your experience, how can legal departments be a driver of innovation rather than just a checkpoint?
I work on that every day. I wish I had a perfect answer for that. Everyone looks at legal as just like the stop sign or the traffic light that's slowing down progress.
Right.
And I look at it as I'm not looking to stop anything. I want to do it. I just want to make sure that we're putting in the proper guardrail so that we don't go and veer off course.
Do you have any examples of guardrails that you use frequently, or guardrails that you've put in place recently?
I'll take a simple one. Like, let's look at obviously we're selling to restaurants. So, we have salespeople opening up restaurants every day. And, I'm sure, you've seen the articles out there about how frequently restaurants also go out of business every day.
Sure.
So there's always collections potential issues.
Yeah.
And, a salesperson will get happy, like, hey, I opened a new account. I want to get them, the sale, and look at all these sales. And, I helped our collections department put a lot more guardrails with, how do we determine what type of terms we're giving out? What documentation are we getting, personal guarantees or not? Or, what are we looking into? Because, even if you get a personal guarantee, some of these guys aren't, liquid or have the money to even go after.
Sure.
So it's putting in those guardrails of, I don't want to stop the sales from coming, but let's make sure that we're doing the risk analysis before we just, run up a massive, line of credit with someone.
Yeah. So how do you prioritize when there are competing legal, operational, and business demands on your plate?
That's, it depends on how pressing the legal issue is. Usually the legal does come first. I try, because like I said, I'm a legal team of one. So the legal usually comes first because I don't have as many people who can do with, who are outside going to outside counsel. But we do have other business, strong business people. We have a strong CFO. We have a strong COO. So if I'm pulled too much into the legal, at least we know we have the rest of the team. One day I hope to build out a little bit more of the legal team as well. But that will all come in time.
So you have degrees in law, business, and engineering. How has that multidisciplinary background influenced how you lead?
I will say I got my business degree. I went back and got my MBA during COVID. It was one of the best things I could have done, especially being out in the workforce for so long, because it wasn't that I was learning a lot of concepts, in concept. It was I was actually thinking about how to apply it, and that really helped me, balance the legal and business issues. But everything. Even my engineering background came in handy. Engineering, you're taught, the details are important. If you're designing a bridge, and even the screws are important how you design, because if those screws fail, the whole bridge can fall. And that's the same thing in law. Every word of a contract matters. Everyone, when you get into litigation, you're usually fighting over like a clause that what it meant. I know what I wanted it to mean, but now you're arguing over what did it really mean.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So
you got to have that
concept
of
the details matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So what lessons have you learned from leading through organizational change, especially during complex legal or compliance challenges?
You got to be able to pivot sometimes. There's having the way to do things, and but sometimes you got to pivot on time. You have to recognize that maybe there's another way. And I'm always trying to be the guy who, not trying to be the smartest person in the room, not trying to be the one who knows everything. There are plenty of smart people out there. I try to collaborate all the time.
Yeah.
And constantly learn.
Can you provide an example of one you've pivoted in your career?
Pivoted in my career. Well, I guess
going or I guess how maybe within Maximum Quality Foods within the business.
Yeah, so HR wise, I've always taken the HR approach more from the legal perspective. I'm always looking at it as an employment law. And, I've really, my HR manager's really, been more of like the humanizing part of it more than just the legal part of it.
Yeah. And so you've adopted a little bit more of a, personable approach to that, and as well as the, compliance aspect.
And that goes back to what I was saying before. Like, that's where she's stronger than where I was at that. Like, I took over HR. I was like, it's employment law, and here's the laws, and I'm following the laws, and I'm good. And, she helped, like, having her as an HR first, not lawyer, she looked at it as from the human aspect, the human resources.
Right. Well, that's fascinating. So as we wrap up, what advice would you give to a young attorney who wants to take on both legal and strategic responsibilities in their career?
I will say, don't burn bridges along the way. The lawyers that I worked with when I was at my firms are a lot of the lawyers I work with today. The partners I was their associate, now I'm their client. Yeah. And I'm, because I didn't burn bridges, they're trusted advisors of mine. I know I could call them, in a pinch, I can, and that's key. And I know I could trust their work, and I know that and the advice that they're going to give me, and they're not just a firm, like I said before, they're not going to just be a firm that's looking to bill. They actually, I have that relationship. They're looking at how can we solve the problem, what makes the most sense, and they're looking at in the same lens I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Well, it was terrific to have you joining us and have this conversation. Wish you all the best, and hope to see you again soon.
Same. Thank you.
Thanks, Sal.
Thanks.